Mark, welcome to the eLearning podcast. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Zach, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, Mark, tell us a little bit about Core Access Consulting. How do you help companies successfully onboard and train new hires, as well as produce high quality learning and development content?
So we've been in business for 13 years, almost 14. I started the company actually 20 years ago and restarted again in 2008. And we work with a lot of global firms to help them with any type of training, whether it's onboarding or leadership. But to answer your question specifically, we build relationships within either a functional area or HR in these firms and really try to understand what the business need is and what the training need is for those organizations and for those teams. And what we do is we create bespoke training materials and figure out with the client whether it should be a virtual learning event, much like what we're doing here, or a self-paced e-learning event where, it's asynchronous, someone's kind of watching a video or taking training on their own, or it's a combination of both. It could be blended, or it could be some type of training experience that hopefully the end user finds meaningful and helpful with their career.
So it sounds like it's very custom and it's tailored to what the client's needs are for their learning and development. What kinds of companies do you serve? What kinds of organizations does Core Access Consulting work with generally?
Yes, we're proud to work with all types of companies, whether they're startups, small, mid-sized. A lot of our focus is on working with global brands such as Amazon, Bank of America, to name a few. Some I can't mention just because we have relationships with those guys. But clearly we work in a lot of different segments, a lot of different markets. Our three most consistent industries are financial services, life sciences, and technology.
Very nice. So why are organizations willing to invest so much time and budget into learning and development for their employees? What are some of the key benefits that an organization would get from investing in learning and development? Maybe like reduced turnover or greater engagement. What are some of those key benefits that you would say learning and development can provide to an organization?
Yeah, great question. We get that a lot. I think you hit on two of those. Retention, certainly one of them. Professional development is another, key component. Attracting new talent is another key component. When you look at talent acquisition, you look at companies needing to market themselves to bring in the top talent in the world. So they want to have learning programs and opportunities for people to not just self-develop, but learn new skills, learn new behaviors, and get involved with trying to stick with the company long term.
So one challenge that I've had, and I've had a lot of guests on this show talk about it. There are even people who've developed platforms to try to assist with this problem. But a big challenge I hear a lot from people in the learning and development space, especially when it comes to upskilling at companies, is getting people to see it through, to engage and to complete the training or the learning modules, and to not just let it sit there. So, let's just for an example, some people listening might have more background in this than others, but let's say you're at a company, they're making some training modules accessible to you to learn some new skill or some new technology. The company obviously wants you to learn it. It will make their team stronger. It'll make their employees more knowledgeable, more adaptable. Maybe they provide some incentives, but and some people start with some initial excitement. And I guess some companies, I'm sure, even pay for the time for this training, but not everybody completes it or sees it to the end. How can organizations be more effective at getting their people to take advantage of the learning and development resources within the company?
Yeah, so every company is different, right? Every culture is different. Every process and a lot of these companies are different. But when you think about what it takes to ensure that an individual goes through a training curriculum or a training plan, what we do is we work very carefully and very collaboratively with our clients to build what we call learning paths, or sort of career progression, and that oftentimes is tied into performance management. So if somebody goes through a performance review with their manager or leader, and they talk about development skills or ways to improve upon what they're working on, whether it's, again, functional skills, behavioral, soft skills, any type of learning, those courses or those programs can be prescribed sort of post assessment. So let's say you and I go through a performance review, and you give me some feedback, and then I'll take that feedback, and then there's some training that might go along with that can be prescribed to me over a series of months, weeks, even the entire year, that would map to my success. So then when we meet again next year or halfway through the year, you can say, hey, Mark, how are you doing with your development skills? And I can say, Zev, I've done X, Y, Z. I've completed these. And then, there's certain ways to nudge or kind of push out new content, to these individuals to develop themselves, to become, better individual contributors or better leaders.
Excellent. So it sounds very similar to marketing. You have set metrics, KPIs, ways of tracking success and reviewing performance, and you have goals and benchmarks by which you can measure progress. I think that's great. And also, just a lot of the stuff that you create, maybe you could give a couple examples without naming names or going into too specific, but maybe some examples of like the type of training a company might do, what it might look like, whether it's like a video series or is it blogs, white papers, and is a lot of it also maybe required stuff too, like compliance oriented?
Yeah, great question. So let me take sort of your second point around compliance. So when we work with life science companies or pharmaceutical companies, Thermo Fisher Scientific, Pfizer, Takeda, to name a few of our clients, sometimes they're asking us to do compliance training, right? So those sort of annual compliance, whether it's a new drug launch or, there's certain things that the company requires or governing body requires, for those associates to go through. But on the other, side of the types of training, we can do all types of training for any function at any company. So, the fun part about our team and the training that we develop is that we want to build these learning experiences, is what we're calling them, and it could be for sales training, it could be for sales enablement, it could be for your traditional onboarding training. New hires coming in, you want to train them on everything from what's going on in the company, the culture, the processes, technology requirements. So we do a lot of onboarding training, as an example. But then again, to go back to functional training, there might be a financial excellence program that a CFO wants to roll out to his or her organization globally to make sure that everyone in that organization has best practices, understands how they process things, understands how they do their financial closings, whatever that might be. So the fun part, like I said, about this organization is we can do all types of training, and we can also provide in a lot of different modalities. You mentioned video training, so we develop a lot of custom videos. A lot of our clients are coming to us asking us about immersive learning. They're asking us to do more augmented reality, virtual reality, things that are a little bit more pushing the envelope, as they say, with respect to giving people that strong experience of putting themselves in someone else's shoes, or experiencing maybe a 360 video where you look around the room and it's kind of a cool experience. So, we do it all. And again, it's something that we take pride in from a creative perspective.
Yeah, and when you do something as customized as you do, rather than some kind of one size fits all LMS, that would require, I think, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of collaboration with teams at the clients that you work with, at the organizations that you work with. And I'm sure you have a stellar team of what goes in, what are the kind of people and expertise, areas of expertise that go into creating this learning and development content? Is it like a combination of kind of finding a subject matter expert within the client's organization, and then having a team of maybe animators, like learning and development specialists, Who are the kinds of people that come together, and how do you kind of bring their skills together to create this kind of content?
Right. So on the client side, we typically work with a subject matter expert, or a program manager to take the intake or gather what their requirements are, what they're looking for from a end result, right? Or as a learning experience. Again, are they looking for a mobile learning on a mobile phone or a mobile device? Are they looking for, video vignettes, kind of quick, videos, explainer videos, for example? Are they looking for a virtual learning environment like this on Zoom or WebEx or Microsoft Teams? What type of learning experience are they looking for? What's their audience? Kind of, how are they distributed? Are they global? Are they local? So we kind of, figure all that out quickly up front. And then on our team, we have a really strong team of project managers, instructional designers, e-learning developers, like you mentioned, animators, creative artists, Q&A folks. And we put this team together to work on that particular project for that client. So many times when we work on multiple projects with the same company, we have the same team in place. So we understand their process, a lot of their branding guidelines, a lot of their, about their culture, about their content readiness. So that enables us to kind of rapidly build this on-demand content for them. And for other clients that we work with for the first time, it's really a relationship thing. We're in the people business, so we're only as good as our people. And I believe that the Core Access team is as good as there is out in the marketplace when it comes to being collaborative, being agile, being really, as we call, sort of high touch, white glove service with our clients and with our prospects.
Excellent. And we're there's been a lot of changes, obviously, in the last couple of years, which I think has given a lot more relevance to the subject of not only remote everything, remote work, remote learning, which is what you guys specialize in. So I'm sure you had a lot of demand during that time. But I think that in our time now, the great resignation post-COVID, a lot of people reevaluating, reassessing, so apparently jumping ship in droves and going to other organizations where maybe they're getting a better offer. In what ways has learning and development, not just remote learning, but just learning and development in general, become more relevant and more of an important thing for organizations to pay attention to?
Yeah, that's a really hot topic, Zev, in the marketplace. It started as the great resignation last year, and now it's being coined as the great reshuffle, right? Where people are trying to figure out what they want to do from their career perspective. So it's an ongoing challenge for organizations to figure out what the triggers are and what actually they need to do to, retain their talent and attract new talent. So, there are certain industries where there's a lot of, folks and a lot of knowledge workers kind of moving around, trying to figure out what they want to do from a career perspective. On the flip side, I see it as a huge opportunity for companies to, look at how to build platforms or how to build sustainable learning organizations that will, maintain scalability and enable them to attract the best talent in the workforce. So not just looking at, ways to, change their business models, whether it's, giving unlimited vacation or, adopting a hybrid work model, which a lot of companies have done. So, they're not saying, hey, everyone, you have to come back into the office 5 days a week. It could be 3 days, it could be virtual, a couple days a week. So I think as, you look at this overall, new way that actually work is getting done. I still think it's sort of an open book, and companies and leaders in the L&D space, in the talent space, are trying to figure that out. And it's not a one size fits all. I believe it's actually, something that each company, each industry has to look at their culture, their purpose, and figure out, what's going to work best for their organization.
So I want to go, and this is a bit of a deeper question, but I've had a lot of people on the show, instructional designers, entrepreneurs, people who are in the e-learning ed tech space. And what do you think is the fundamental reason? Like you mentioned, retention, and obviously this is a hot topic right now with the great reshuffle. what do you think are the key reasons someone stays with an organization? And how does learning and development tie into that? So obviously there's financial, right? Somebody chooses another job because they're offering more money. But what are ways from your experience working with all these big companies and different organizations, companies can be better at getting people to stick and stay? And how does learning and development incentivize a person to want to stay with their organization?
Yeah, I mean, again, another great question, another hot topic in the market. I believe it really starts at the top of these organizations. So my feeling is it starts with the culture, it starts with the leadership, it starts with, what do these organizations want to, build, and then cascade down to, the entire organization. So, from a fundamental perspective, I believe that, the individuals that are looking to work at these firms, their own personal guidelines or tenets need to match what a company is looking to do. Is a company just looking to manufacture things and not care about other aspects of what's going on in the world, whether it's global warming or other things? So I think that there's sort of a matching that has to kind of take place between the people that want to work for a firm and then the actual company that wants to attract these people. I think that, to get tactile for a minute, some of the onboarding programs are getting redesigned, and we're being asked to do that at some large firms. Onboarding used to be, 3 weeks to 3 months. Now companies are asking us to build or redesign a program for an entire year, because what they want to do is they want to, build, really some stickiness and some ongoing mentoring, some ongoing touch points for that person as they get into the organization, right? Align them up for maybe some stretch assignments. Maybe there's some mobility. Maybe there's some extra things that those folks can do to get some exposure, into leadership or onto some different teams, and will not just, be in one role or one job kind of every single day. So, building your network, kind of stretching your skills into other assignments, and doing that over a longer period of time, will enable these companies to actually retain these folks for a longer period, and then hopefully build a lot of the cultural aspects that are necessary to, have these people want to stay. Loyalty, voice of the employee, does that map to voice of the customer? So a lot of those things are really, really important. It takes a lot of time and effort. We probably don't have enough time to get into sort of the whole change management paradigm and whatnot, but I do believe that if these companies, build these, sustainable programs that these individuals can be part of, and build their skills and leadership toolkit, I think that, you'll see a lot more stickiness down the road.
Amazing. And, as a lot of companies are remote now or doing more hybrid options, and a lot of people, let's say, are going back out now, but they're not wanting to go to the office, and certain companies want to incentivize, attract more in demand hires by having perks like less in office time. Has this created challenges for, let's say, employee performance evaluation, or getting people to engage or feel like more part of the company? Like you said, I think extending the onboarding is a testament to trying to get people. I think people are realizing that you don't retain people if you just let them slip through the cracks. So using the kind of training and the different resources that Core Access provides, how do you help companies create a better sense of community, increase engagement, and also evaluate performance successfully?
Yeah, that's a big question. Kind of a loaded question there. I feel that people that aren't, and this is my own opinion, seeing this at a lot of our clients, individuals that aren't part of a culture or aren't necessarily going into the office every day, lose that, like you said, community, lose that connectivity, lose that network, lose that ability to actually build relationships, make those connections, which are really important in anything you do, right? Whether it's the workplace, on a sports team, on on any other type of organization or team that you're working on or working with, I should say. So some of the things that companies are trying to do is they're trying to build or implement tools that will connect people and make them feel certainly part of things ongoing. Again, there's certain community-oriented tools like a Slack or a Skype that companies use, or Microsoft Teams, to kind of connect people and make sure that there's touch points or there's ways that they're communicating on an everyday basis. Last year or a couple of years ago, we built and designed what we call virtual performance management, because we thought that it was something new. Historically, companies would do a performance review at least once a year or potentially twice a year, and that was done in person. And you'd have these conversations with your boss, with the associate, and you give feedback, and then hopefully you'd work on what that person needed to do. Now those are done virtually, right, for the most part. And I think that's going to go back to change a little bit as companies are going back to the office. But those are really important things that companies should really think about, and individuals should think about too, to try to find ways to advocate for themselves, try to find ways to plug into their boss or their peers or their colleagues to kind of help them build their personal brand as they're developing, especially early in their career. On the flip side, I truly feel that if you're a manager or you're a new manager, you're managing a new team, you have to do it the other way. You have to engage your team. You have to check in with your team. You don't want to be checking in too much where they feel like they're being, quote unquote, micromanaged. But at the same time, you want to empower them and make sure that you're being really collaborative if they can't be in the office, for whatever reason, based upon the company's decisions there.
Fantastic. And you've touched on a few of the emerging trends, like the longer onboarding times and immersive learning. But off the top of your head, like, what do you think are some major trends in e-learning or in ed tech, as well as in the work environment in general? Like, how do you think things are going to play out in the future of work and learning over the next 5-10 years, if you could predict that far out?
Yeah, I'm not in the prediction business, and but the future work is here, right? And it's definitely certainly a brand new model over the last few years of how not just the work gets done and the flow of work, or how companies are prepared to actually continue to scale, grow, and motivate their employees. What I would say is that ed tech is a huge market, as you're an expert in the space and speaking to ed tech leaders all the time. There's a lot of technology platforms out there, whether it's an LXP like a Degreed, for example, that has content that can be pushed out to an organization to kind of enable people to always be learning, have continuous learning. There's other new tools out there, whether they're augmented reality or virtual reality, and platforms that people become more engaged in, right? It becomes part of the flow of work. They're on their mobile device. They can watch a quick video. They can, share knowledge through an organization, through particular platforms. So I think all the tools are allowing these organizations strong connectivity and strong on-demand learning experiences. So I think, it's still going to evolve over the next couple of years, because again, there are a lot of LMSs out there, as that sort of house all this content. There's a lot of content platforms out there. There's still some great content companies. It's a very fragmented business where companies are trying to figure out how can they build an ecosystem for their organization to retain and attract new talent. Don't think anyone's quite figured out what the silver bullet is there or the secret sauce, and that's why there's so many really great vendors in the marketplace, certainly filling a lot of those niches for these companies. Proud to say that Corax is one of them, right? We're a custom content learning strategy firm. So, we're filling one of those needs at a lot of these companies. And I don't think that's going to slow down anytime soon, because companies are trying to find a way to, make their content more digitized, make their content and storytelling more engaging. So, again, I don't know if that's an answer to your question, but, certainly it is certainly evolving as we can, continue into the future.
That's great, Mark. And I understand you recently knocked something off your bucket list, like skydiving or something, or am I getting that wrong?
Yeah, skydiving's not on my bucket list, never will be. Neither will be bungee jumping. But yeah, Zev, I recently wrote a book, and proud to say that I'm a published author. Book's coming out April 5th. It's called The Pace Process for early career success. And it was really a passion project of mine. It was really, like you said, a bucket list thing. And I've been working on it for about 18 months, and really happy about the way it's turned out. And hopefully it'll enable the Gen Zers, to read about it, learn about ways to attack, the market and going to get a job, right? So I feel that, what we learn from a lot of our clients is that a lot of these prospective new hires that are graduating from college don't necessarily have the skills or the confidence or, a lot of, the action oriented steps needed to try to get a job. It sounds easy, hey, put together a resume, have a LinkedIn profile, but there's some other things that you really need to do to, put your foot ahead of somebody else. And I hope this book, with a lot of the experience I've had over 30 years will kind of help hone some of the skills or some of the tactics, and, with a little tough love for this group, and, to hopefully fill these roles that are much needed in the workplace.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of the tips you share for young adults and people entering the workforces are also helpful for a lot of people who've been in the workforce for a long time and are thinking to transition or go into a different career path. And I see how it's definitely your company's all about mentoring, learning. It seems like a testament to your brand that your book is also about mentoring and kind of helping people put their best foot forward professionally, grow their skills, and market themselves. Which I think, I'm speaking as a marketer here, but I think that you touched on it earlier. Personal branding is becoming important, not just for CEOs or influencers, but for everyone now, to get noticed and compete in the marketplace.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, I mean, with all the social media platforms, whether it's on the business side, LinkedIn, or more on the social side, Instagram or TikTok, employers or prospective employers are checking out, prospective employees, right? They're seeing what their brands are, they're looking at their backgrounds, they're not just listening to them in an interview. And frankly, on the interview side, back before, the pandemic, it used to always be, hey, let's meet face to face, shake someone's hand. Now, a lot of the initial interviews are done virtually, right? So you have to learn those skills. You have to make sure that, you're thinking ahead, you have good questions prepared, you've done a lot of research on the company. So those are all really important things. And I like the point you brought up around, it's not just about, people trying to get into the workforce for the first time. It's also people that are in the workforce for a few years, those Gen Yers and those Millennials that, looking at, okay, I've been with a company 3, 4, 5 years, should I take a look or reevaluate kind of where I'm at? Is it the right industry? Is it the right role? And the book has some tips and strategies around that too. So again, it's a journey for everyone in the workplace. That 5 years ago, I bet you probably wouldn't be thinking you'd be doing these great podcasts, right? With people. I certainly wouldn't be. I probably didn't think I'd be doing those either. And here we are. So in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, it might be totally different. But I think the younger generation needs to kind of prepare themselves to really be competitive when they want to go find themselves their ultimate job or their ultimate career.
Awesome. So it's PACE, Process for Early Career Success. We'll link it in the show notes. Very exciting about your book being released, and we'll also put some links to for access so people can learn more about that. And Mark, thank you so much for stopping by. This has been a really great interview, great talking to you, and I think that my listeners have definitely learned a lot. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Ev. Always great chatting with you, and we'll chat soon.
All right, take care.